overall, veterans who do get treated are satisfied with their treatment.
Much more so than people in the regular system.
It's exactly right. Now, nobody would believe that from the coverage that you see and the constant berating of the VA that comes from the Republicans, in part in pursuit of this ideological agenda.
But in part because there has been real scandal.
There has been, but it's not been as widespread as it has been made out to be.
There is but one proper word to use in describing how some politicians and their lemmings treat our military veterans when they come home from service and need our help. The word is despicable, especially in light of numerous studies, reports, and testimony in the last year that has proven beyond the shadow of any doubt how corrupt and mismanaged the Veterans Administration is. So when former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton downplays those reports and then makes it a partisan attack on Republicans making much ado about nothing, there is one elected official who will rightly be on the attack. Let us welcome back the senior United States Senator from Arizona, former Republican presidential nominee, chairman of the Senate Armed Forces Committee, Senator John McCain. Senator, a pleasure to speak with you again, and I use the word despicable as the son of someone who served proudly in the American military, and I can guess that no matter how many times you hear that soundbite in that clip, that has just got to grate on you.
Well, it does, and the thing that's really alarming about this is that Secretary Clinton wants to be the commander-in-chief, and we know that the commander-in-chief has first responsibility is to the men and women who serve in the military and those who have served. I believe it was a quote from Abraham Lincoln that said, "Our obligation to the widows and the wounded," and she has now, politicized the issue because we've addressed it in the Congress, as partisan as we are, on a bipartisan basis. I worked with Bernie Sanders to get the VA reform bill done. I worked with Democrats to get the Clay Hunt Suicide Prevention Act done. The VA, the Veterans Affairs Committee in the Senate and the House, they work on a bipartisan basis. So who steps in to make it a partisan issue and disparage the terrible things that have happened to our veterans? And it is especially important to me. This will really be interesting in Arizona because, as you know, there are 50 veterans died in Arizona at the VA waiting on a phantom waiting list, and to her, it's been exaggerated that the 500,000 appointments with extended wait times, 800,000 records stalled in the agency's system. I mean, the list goes on. And one other aspect, if I could just mention to you really quickly, she also said that we are trying to make the veterans programs privatized. We're trying to give our veterans a card that lets them go wherever they want to get the health care they need. The VA is very good at prosthesis, PTSD, traumatic brain injury, but rather than have a veteran, let's give the veteran a choice. Go down and get on a waiting list or go to a healthcare provider of his or her choice. If that's privatizing medicine, I can guarantee you the overwhelming majority of veterans want, quote, privatization, i.e. choice.
Senator, I have about 2 minutes left, and you mentioned Hillary Clinton as being someone who wants to be president of the United States.
She is not qualified. She is not qualified if she has this attitude and approach to our veterans.
I would agree with you, and so many others will as well. Let me bring this then to the Republican debates that we have just seen, the third one. As you see the Republicans debating, as you see people then worried about where the party itself is going, and in many ways tearing itself apart, how concerned are you about the people who are running for president on the right and what message they are sending to Americans and what the media is also sending at the same time?
Well, I'll pass on the media. I think you and I, but in the case of now, I'm very hopeful that Congressman Ryan, the new Speaker, will get our Republicans in the House all marching to the same drummer and working together. And I believe that these are healthy debates. But although that one last night wasn't the finest hour. Last night I was disturbed at how little there was about national security when we have the world literally falling apart and with the worst Secretary of State in history, as well as the worst president in history. But Lindsey Graham's the guy that's been to Iraq and in Afghanistan 35 times. He did very well in the undercard. He's the person I think is most qualified on national security, and by the way, he's very entertaining.
I've only got about 20 seconds left. Do you wish that we would hear more specifics from the candidates?
Of course. By the way, how are you going to round up 11 million people and send them back? And what do you do with children who were born here, who by our Constitution are citizens? And by the way, if you want to build a wall, and make the Mexicans pay for it, I'd like to see how we make the Mexicans pay for it. I think they deserve some of those specifics.
I think you are talking about a specific candidate, and the American people will have to make their choice. Senator John McCain,
there you go.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. Paul Ryan, as the senator mentioned, is now in charge, or is he? The political animal enters the arena next on The Hardline.